All right, welcome back to the deep dive. If you're navigating the complex, ever-changing world of information systems, maybe you're an IS grad student trying to, connect the dots between technology and business value, well, this deep dive is specifically for you.
Absolutely. It's a key challenge.
We're pulling insights from a stack of sources today, everything from foundational concepts to expert commentary, really, to wrap our heads around a core framework, one for making sure IT services don't just exist, but actually, create measurable value.
Which is the ultimate goal, right?
Exactly. Our mission today is to unpack the ITIL 4 service value system, that's the big picture view, and then zero in on its operational heart, the service value chain. We want to explore how these ideas help organizations take, raw demand or maybe an opportunity and transform it into tangible outcomes that matter.
Yeah, moving from idea to actual value.
And this isn't just theory for a textbook or an exam. This is about understanding the engine of modern service management. It's the blueprint organizations use to streamline, cut waste, and continuously improve. So by the end of this, you should have a much clearer picture of how IT delivers value and maybe where you might fit into making that happen in your career.
Exactly. Moving beyond just the tech components and seeing the whole system. That system of value creation is just crucial. And ITIL 4, it provides that lens.
Okay, let's jump in then. The sources start with this big idea, the service value system, the SVS. For someone trying to grasp the core of ITIL 4, what's the most fundamental, maybe even surprising thing to understand about what the SVS is and what it's trying to achieve?
That's a great question. The SVS isn't just another diagram you have to memorize. It's ITIL 4's attempt to show you the entire system, how an organization actually co-creates value with its stakeholders. It's sometimes called a system of systems because it pulls together all these different elements that, they have to work in harmony.
A system of systems, okay.
Yeah. Its core purpose is really to visualize and structure how demand or opportunities get met by delivering valuable products and services. And it explicitly shows that this isn't just an isolated IT thing. It involves the whole organization interacting together, making sure nothing works in a silo.
Got it. So it's the overall ecosystem. And the sources, they point to 5 key components that make up this SVS, building blocks, or maybe the major organs of the system. Is that a fair analogy?
That's a good analogy, yeah. There are 5 key elements, and they interact constantly within the SVS. So first, you have the guiding principles.
Ah, right. These sound like the fundamental recommendations, almost like a cultural compass, kind of guiding how an organization approaches its work. The sources list principles like focus on value, start where you are, progress iteratively with feedback, collaborate and promote visibility, think and work holistically, keep it simple and practical, and optimize and automate. These seem like they'd really shape the mindset, wouldn't they?
Precisely. They are these universal recommendations that really should inform every decision, every action. They're just critical for creating a shared understanding and culture. Then there's governance.
Okay, governance.
Governance is about, the direction and control of the organization. It's the framework of policies, decision-making authorities that ensures activities align with the overall business strategy and objectives. Think of it as the steering mechanism and the oversight that keeps the SVS pointed in the right direction towards value.
Makes sense. And next up is the piece we're going to really focus on as the operational core, the service value chain.
Yes, the service value chain, or SVC. If the SVS is the whole system, the SVC is often described as the heart or maybe the engine. It's the central operational model. It outlines the key activities an organization performs to create and deliver services and products. It's what links all the other SVS components together in practice.
Okay, so that's 3. What are the other 2 pieces floating around in this SVS?
Right. After the SVC, you have practices. Now, ITIL 4 uses this term maybe more broadly than just processes. Practices are these organized sets of resources, think people, information, tools, partners that are used to perform work or achieve a specific objective.
Resources for getting work done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The sources mentioned there are 34 management practices covering things like incident management, change enablement, service request management, the usual suspects. If the service value chain is the sequence of activities that need doing, the practices are the specific capabilities or maybe playbooks you use within those activities to get the job done effectively.
Gotcha. And finally, number 5.
Continual improvement. This one is absolutely essential to the SPS. It's the ongoing activity of evaluating and enhancing products, services, practices across the entire system. It provides a structured approach to identifying opportunities, planning, implementing, and reviewing improvements.
Like the PDCA cycle, sort of?
Very much like that. Like the ITIL continual improvement model itself, it's really about embedding a feedback loop. It ensures that lessons learned, performance data, stakeholder feedback, all that stuff is constantly used to make everything better. And it's not just some separate process. The sources really emphasize it's a mindset. It has to permeate the whole organization.
Okay, so to quickly recap the SVS, you've got guiding principles informing everything, governance providing direction, practices giving you the how-to, continual improvement driving enhancement, and the service value chain as the central engine, coordinating it all to turn demand into value. It really sounds like a system where all parts are, well, deeply connected.
Precisely. And understanding those connections is absolutely key to seeing the holistic picture ITIL 4 presents. You can't really understand one part without seeing how it fits with the others.
All right, so let's dive deeper into that engine then, the service value chain, the SVC. What exactly is it designed to do day to day, operationally speaking?
Right, operationally. The SVC's purpose is just that, operational. It's a flexible model that describes the core activities needed to respond to demand or an opportunity and facilitate the realization of value for stakeholders. Basically, it takes inputs like requirements, incidents, requests, and transforms them into outputs, delivered services, resolved issues, new products.
And the sources break this down into 6 primary activities. Can we walk through what each of those entails?
Absolutely. The 6 activities are plan, engage, design and transition, obtain, build, deliver and support, and improve.
And I remember the sources making a really important point here, something that felt different from older approaches. These aren't necessarily sequential steps in a fixed order, right?
That's a crucial distinction ITIL 4 makes. It's trying to move away from a purely rigid, process-centric view. The SVC activities, they're designed to be flexible. They can be combined in different ways. You can loop back through them or even skip some depending on the specific scenario or, the type of value stream you're actually following.
Okay, that flexibility sounds key. Let's look at the first one, plan. What happens there? What does plan involve?
Plan is really where the organization establishes a shared understanding. A shared understanding of the vision, the current status, and the future direction for all 4 dimensions of service management. Value streams and processes, organizations and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers. This is where your strategies, portfolios, and detailed plans are developed. They guide the subsequent activities and ensure alignment.
Got it. Strategy and direction setting. Next is engage. This sounds like where interaction with the outside world happens. Customers, users.
Exactly right. Engage is all about understanding and interacting with stakeholders. And that includes customers, users, suppliers, partners, regulators, really anyone involved in that service relationship. It's where you capture demand in all its forms, requests, incidents, problems, feedback, new requirements. It's essentially the continuous dialogue channel. So when a user submits a ticket or a customer gets feedback on a service, that's the engage activity in action.
Okay, makes sense. Then we move to design and transition. What's the focus here?
Design and transition, its main job is ensuring that new or changed products and services actually meet stakeholder expectations. Think quality, cost, time, and critically, that they're ready for live use. It takes the understanding you gain from Engage and translates it into concrete service designs, build specifications, test plans, deployment plans. It prepares the service for moving from development or design into the live operational environment.
Preparing for prime time. Which brings us naturally to obtain build. Is this where things actually get made or bought?
Precisely. Obtain build ensures service components are available when and where they're needed and that they meet the required specifications. This is where you actually create or acquire the necessary resources. So if your team is developing custom software, that's part of build. If you're purchasing cloud infrastructure or, say, off-the-shelf hardware, that's obtained. It just makes sure the pieces required for the service actually exist and are configured correctly.
Okay. And then perhaps the activity most people associate with running IT. Deliver and support. This is the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Deliver and support is all about ensuring services are delivered and supported effectively and efficiently according to the agreed specifications. This is the day-to-day operation. Things like managing incidents, fulfilling service requests, managing access, monitoring service performance. This is really where users directly interact with the service and where value is realized through consumption. When you get your password reset or, use an application, you're interacting with deliver and support.
Right, where the rubber meets the road for the user. And finally, improve. You mentioned this earlier with continual improvement in the SVS.
Yes, the improve activity is actually embedded throughout the SVC, not just tacked on at the end. Its purpose is ensuring continual improvement of products, services, and practices across all the value chain activities. It systematically identifies opportunities for improvement, often based on feedback or performance analysis, and then puts those improvements into action. And that might involve looping back through plan, or design and transition, or up-team build to make the change happen.
So these 6 activities, plan, engage, design and transition, obtain, build, deliver, and support, improve their, the operational toolbox. And the flexibility means you can mix and match them depending on what you're trying to achieve. It's powerful.
Exactly. That flexibility is precisely what allows ITIL 4 to support things like agile development or, DevOps practices much more naturally than older frameworks perhaps did. You build specific value streams by combining these activities in different sequences tailored to the need.
Okay, value streams. That's the next key term. So how do these activities actually string together in the real world for a specific request or scenario? Is that where the concept of a value stream comes in?
Precisely. A value stream is the specific sequence of activities an organization undertakes to create and deliver a particular product or service to a consumer. Think of it as the end-to-end journey, right from the initial demand or opportunity all the way to the delivery of actual value.
The journey. Okay.
And this raises a really important point, especially for IS students. Understanding the difference between a value stream and maybe a traditional process. A process, in older ITIL or other frameworks, often focuses on the steps within a single practice, like the specific steps for closing an incident ticket. A value stream, as defined in ITIL 4, it cuts across multiple activities in the service value chain, and it often involves multiple practices, even multiple teams, to deliver a complete outcome. It's a much more holistic view, which aligns perfectly with that think and work holistically guiding principle we talked about earlier.
So a value stream shows the whole journey a request takes through the organization, potentially jumping between different SVC activities and maybe different teams.
Exactly. And because the SVC itself is flexible, value streams don't have to use all 6 activities. They don't follow a fixed linear order necessarily, and they can absolutely loop back through activities if needed.
Okay, can we make that more concrete? The sources had an incident resolution example, right? Could we walk through that to see the flow?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take that example. Imagine an employee can't log into their email. Okay, that's the demand.
Right, common problem.
Very. So they call the service desk. That's the engage activity, right? Capturing the demand, logging it as an incident. The service desk technician then tries to fix it, maybe following some standard procedures that's primarily deliver and support. Now, if they can't resolve it, they might escalate it to a specialized team.
Still deliver and support, just a different group.
Exactly. Still part of deliver and support, just using different resources within that activity. So, the specialized team investigates and resolves the issue again, primarily deliver and support. And voila, the employee can now access their email value as delivered.
Okay, problem solved. But as the sources note, the value stream doesn't necessarily just stop there, does it?
Correct. It often continues. While resolving it, maybe that specialized team identifies a recurring root cause. They might decide to document the fix in the knowledge base, or perhaps propose a technical change to prevent it happening again. That's the improve activity happening right there, feeding back into the system. Then the service desk might follow up with the employee just to confirm satisfaction. That's another instance of engage, closing the loop with the user, and gathering feedback.
Checking in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a satisfaction survey could be sent out automatically, engage again, and then maybe a review of incident trends, and all that feedback could trigger a separate improve initiative to address the root cause more broadly. And that might lead to future plan or design and transition activities to implement a bigger fix.
Wow, okay. That example perfectly shows how engage and deliver and support can be used multiple times, and improve is happening during and after the main resolution flow. And interestingly, plan and design and transition weren't even needed for this specific standard incident flow.
Exactly. It really highlights the dynamic, nonlinear nature. It shows how different activities are sequenced based on the specific scenario, all focused on delivering value efficiently.
Okay, so if value streams are these specific paths through the SVC activities, how do you actually see them in a complex organization? And more importantly, how do you figure out where things are getting stuck or slowed down? Because here's where it gets really interesting for anyone, especially IS students, looking to actually improve systems.
Right. This is where value stream mapping, or VSM, comes into play. VSM is a really powerful lean technique that ITIL 4 fully embraces as a practical tool. It's all about visualizing the flow of work for a specific scenario or value stream. You'd literally draw a map, showing the steps involved, the value chain activities, and maybe specific practices being used, the information flow, who's doing the work, what tools are used, and crucially, you measure the time spent in each step, and just as importantly, the time spent waiting between steps.
Waiting time. That's often where the delays hide.
That's often the biggest culprit. As ITIL expert Stuart Rance is quoted in the sources, VSM creates a very detailed flow diagram. It's a great tool for identifying improvement opportunities. It essentially makes the invisible workflow visible.
So it's less about documenting some ideal policy and much more about documenting reality, showing how things actually happen, warts and all. Bottlenecks, delays.
Exactly that. The primary goal is to see the current state clearly, to identify wasted effort, wasted time delays, handoff problems, redundancies, and other inefficiencies that add cost or just delay value delivery. It's a fantastic practical way to apply principles like optimize and automate or keep it simple and practical.
How is it usually done? Is it one person drawing a map?
Not ideally.
Hmm.
It's typically done in a workshop setting. You absolutely need to bring together people from all parts of the value stream, yes, IT folks, but also business stakeholders, maybe HR, finance, whoever touches that process. This cross-functional perspective is just key to getting an accurate picture and identifying where the friction really is. It breaks down silos.
Makes sense. And the sources give a great, really relatable example of applying this, the new employee onboarding scenario. Could you walk us through how mapping that might reveal issues? It's something most people have experienced.
Right. Onboarding is a classic, often frustrating example. The demand is straightforward. A new hire is joining the company. But the value stream, well, it involves activities across HR, IT, facilities, maybe others, just to get that person ready to be productive. They need a laptop, accounts, access permissions, maybe a desk. And complaints often arise because it just takes too long, right? The new hire isn't productive on day one, maybe not even week one.
Definitely heard that story before.
So if you map this current state, you'd start with, say, HR step of notifying IT, that's engage. Then perhaps IT needs to check if resources are available, maybe schedule the work. Plan. Ordering and configuring the laptop, setting up email accounts, granting system access that involves obtain build, and finally delivering the laptop and activating accounts on day one, that's deliver and support.
And mapping that whole thing would likely reveal the delays. Like maybe IT isn't notified until the week before the start date, causing a huge rush and engage in plan.
Exactly. Or maybe there are multiple manual approval steps needed for every single piece of software access where you could ask, can we apply? Keep it simple here. Or maybe there are significant delays waiting for hardware delivery in the obtain build activity. The handoffs between HR and IT might be clunky, manual, prone to error.
Okay, so the map makes these delays painfully visible. You see where the value stream is just sitting idle, waiting.
Absolutely. And then, guided by those ITIL principles we discussed, you can start to design a future state map. How could we engage earlier? Maybe HR notifies IT as soon as the offer is accepted. Could we optimize and automate account creation, perhaps triggered directly from the HR system? Could we keep it simple by bundling standard access requests instead of needing separate approvals for everything? And critically, could we use continual improvement by systematically getting feedback from new hires after their first week to identify recurring pain points and feed that back into refining the process?
And these improvements often map directly back to specific ITIL practices, right? So improving the onboarding value stream might mean improving your service request management practice for handling those onboarding requests, or maybe refining your access management practice.
Exactly. VSM isn't just about drawing pictures. It's a powerful diagnosis tool. It helps you pinpoint where to apply improvements using the specific ITIL practices, and always guided by the overarching principles. And for IS graduate students, this is a skill that directly translates to real-world impact. Being able to analyze a system flow, identify those inefficiencies, and propose concrete, beta-backed improvements that deliver value faster and maybe cheaper. That's incredibly valuable.
Okay, so let's try and bring it all together then. We've journeyed from the high-level ITIL 4 service value system framework, seeing how guiding principles, governance practices, and continual improvement all support and interact down to the operational engine, that flexible service value chain with its 6 core activities. We've seen how specific value streams flow through these activities, sometimes looping back, sometimes skipping steps. And crucially, how value stream mapping is the practical tool to visualize that flow, spot the waste, and identify tangible opportunities for improvement.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here, I think, and particularly relevant if you're studying information systems, is how these concepts provide a common language and a common structure for approaching pretty much any service delivery challenge. They give you a framework for thinking systemically, for identifying where value is being created, and, just as importantly, where it's being lost or delayed. And it helps you communicate that effectively to others to build a case for change.
A common language for improvement.
Exactly. Understanding the SVS, the SVC, and the concept of value streams equips you not just for, say, potential ITIL certification, but more fundamentally for actively designing and managing IT services that truly enable business outcomes. It constantly reinforces that value co-creation is about collaboration, it's about feedback, and it's about a relentless focus on improving that end-to-end journey of value delivery.
It's kind of about seeing the matrix, essentially understanding the underlying structure that governs how services are actually delivered, and then being able to influence it.
That's a good way to put it, seeing the underlying flow.
So, what does this all mean for you listening today? Here's maybe a final thought to chew on. Think about a frustrating process you've experienced recently. Maybe something at your university, like registering for a class, or resolving an IT issue, or perhaps a process at work, or even just dealing with a subscription service online. Could you try and sketch out a simplified version of that process as a value stream? Try mapping the main steps and see if you can identify which ITIL 4 service value chain activity each step might fall under. Engage, obtain build, deliver, and support. Where do you think the delays are happening? And then, based on those guiding principles like start where you are and progress iteratively, how might you identify just one small place in that stream where an improvement could potentially make a difference?
That's a great practical exercise. Start simple.
Exactly. Start where you are.
Hmm.
Okay, that's all for this deep dive. Hopefully this gives you a solid foundation for understanding the engine of IT value delivery in ITIL 4 and maybe inspires you to start looking for value streams everywhere.